Last time we were introduced to all the basics of combat, the main cast of characters, and the theme of loss and mourning. We also left off with Titus's envy of Yuna's celebrity and his desire to once more be admired. This is the first step in Titus being humbled. Titus is isolated on the boat as it travels to Luca while Yuna is once more surrounded by admirers. He even overhears Lulu and Waka discussing the possibility of just leaving him at Luca. The only person that seems interested in keeping him around is Yuna herself, a decision that even Waka sees as a potential problem. It might sound silly to say, but back when I played in high school, I think I missed a lot of the nuance of Titus's character. His insecurities seem so obvious now. It's not just that he yearns to be admired and loved, it's that he continues to live in his father's shadow. After all, we're given a better introduction to his father Jet at the start of the game.
Whoa, didn't mean to reminisce, folks.
Than we are of Titus himself. It's possible that even now, as a famous Blitzball player, Titus is still constantly in his father's shadow. So when he's feeling down and isolated, his mind instantly goes to his father. The question then becomes whether Jecht was really that bad, or if Titus's own mind exaggerates his father's personality. Perhaps this Jecht is merely the man Titus perceives him to be. Titus's inability to pull off the Jecht shot is thus thematically appropriate and also serves as a foreshadowing of the upcoming Blitzball game. Legacy is perhaps a second major theme, one that coincides with that of loss and grief. Yuna is following in her father's footsteps, Titus in his father's footsteps, and here we are introduced to Seymour, guardian of Pope Confucius, who is the son of a former Meister that recently passed. Even Waka lives in the shadow of his brother Chappu, as is seen during the Blitzball game. Yes, finally Blitzball. Titus is back in his element. If there's any moment he's going to regain his glory, it's on the Blitzball field. Or in the Blitzball field. Bubble. Rather than a card game, such as in Final Fantasy VIII and IX, the player is introduced to sorta, kinda, real-time, sorta, kinda, turn-based Blitzball. A potentially daunting tutorial is provided, but I find the design of the game to actually be quite intriguing. Focusing so much on stat comparisons effectively makes Blitzball a card or board game, just without the cards or hexagonal grid. The movement controls are even tied to the overhead map rather than where the camera is focusing. It would be very easy to take the basic mechanics of the game and transfer them onto the tabletop. While memorizing what all these stats mean may seem daunting at first, the mechanics are actually quite simple to understand. In fact, I kinda want a board game version of Blitzball now. You go through the tutorial, have all the information fresh in your head, ready to give this new minigame a try, and...
Someone said they saw Sir Orin in a cafe.
Wait a minute, what? Really? Really? We're not gonna play Blitzball? Then what the hell was that tutorial even for? While you can return to the tutorial at any time, the game basically gives you instructions for something you're not even going to do. Instead, you are given the opportunity to wander around, which doubles as an opportunity to explore and find items. This is essentially rewarding the player for ignoring the story and doing whatever the hell they want, breaking any sense of urgency. What's that, Waka? Titus should hurry the hell up so he can get back in time for the game? Ah, who gives a damn about that anyway? There's stuff to find, people to talk to, Thundercats to greet, a Yuna to be kidnapped. Wait, what was that list? Shit! Damn it! Ugh! So in an effort to coerce Waka and his team into throwing the match, Elbed's team kidnaps Yuna. Everyone else has to go and try to save her, meaning Titus misses out on the first Blitzball game. Once again, I have to ask why we were given a tutorial on a minigame that we're not even going to play. What's important to note here, however, is Lulu's commentary on Waka's performance. As stated, even he is living in the shadow of his brother Chappu. Evidently, Chappu could take a much better beating and play better than Waka. Just like Titus, Waka himself is struggling with living up to the potential set forth by the one who came before him. This creates a mechanical and thematic conflict once the player finally gets to play Blitzball. After crushing the gratuitous boss, rescuing Yuna, and benching an overly sore and hurt Waka, Titus finally gets into the... field to play. Hope you remember everything covered in the tutorial. Not that it matters. The player is intentionally up against a team that is out of their league. Everyone's stats on the opposing team are much stronger than the players, and it seems that there's no way to stop and do a pass or shot without members of the other team blocking. Nearly every shot is destined to be intercepted or fumbled. Thematically, this is intentional. Big Shot Titus is finally back in his element and he's losing. Unless the player is some sort of Blitzball prodigy, the odds are stacked so heavily against them that I cannot see anything but a loss here. The crowd ends up cheering and calling for Waka, forcing our conceited hero to step down and allow Waka time in the spotlight instead. Once more, someone else gets the adoration that he was once constantly enshrouded in. While I'm all for tying theme and gameplay together, the end result is a horrible introduction to Blitzball. I imagine a lot of players, myself from high school included, made up their minds about the minigame within moments as they found themselves instantly outmatched and unable to even compete. The temptation is to thus abandon the game, and based on forum posts and friendly discussions both had recently and at the game's initial launch, that's precisely what happened for a lot of players. There needed to be at least some sort of warm-up match, or an additional team to go up against that the player had a more fair chance against. That way the player sees Luca's team as a clearly defined goal, rather than an overall representation of the minigame's challenge. No matter what the player's impression, the match concludes with a surprise monster attack. Aaron shows back up and reunites with Titus, and we are introduced to Seymour's power via his summon. If you weren't already suspicious of Seymour, the very nature of his Aeon should clue you in to his villainous alignment. A bound creature that is forced to use some horrifying power to destroy the monsters within the stadium, the audience sits in awe of the tremendous and frightful capabilities of this man. That's it for this episode of JRPDiary, and I hope you'll join me next time, hopefully way less than a year from now, as Aaron drops some knowledge on Titus.